talk about it.
We are recording. So it is 7 p.m. on August 11th, 2020. And we're going to open the regular board meeting. Will you do roll call, please?
Fun. Trustees Chris Sample,
Here.
John Talbot,
Here.
William Luxinger,
Here.
Dina Simpson,
Here.
Jen Christensen,
Here.
Jared Doan,
Here.
President Rick Worm,
Here.
Treasurer Brent Onabaney,
Here.
I Clerk Sandy Monson here, Attorney David Silverman,
Here.
Public Works Supervisor Brett Fergie, and Park Supervisor Nathan Hill is here without a mic.
Here.
And muffled.
Yeah.
Would you please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
What?
It's almost a lost thing in this world anymore.
$200, yeah, $190.
All right, move on to the consent agenda. At this time, do any of the board members wish to remove anything from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Would you like me to read the consent agenda items for
Sure.
approval? Tonight for approval on the consent agenda is item number 1, the July 14th, 2020 regular board meeting minutes. Number 2, the bills payable warrant list dated August 11th, 2020. And number 3 is the resolution number 20-52, a resolution appointing the building official for the village of Davis Junction.
Okay, so now at this time, not previously, does anybody wish to remove anything, any of the board members wish to remove anything from the consent agenda for further discussion? We'll entertain a motion.
I move to place agenda items 1, 2, and 3 inclusively as consent agenda items. Further, I move that all items be considered together as the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I haven't done that in months.
William moves to place items 1, 2, and 3 inclusively as the consent agenda. Dina seconds. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dina?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Motion passes 703.
I move to adopt items 1, 2, and 3 inclusively on the consent agenda in a single group pursuant to the omnibus vote procedure specified in the Illinois Municipal Code.
Second.
William moves to adopt items 1, 2, and 3 inclusively on the consent agenda. Jared seconds. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dina?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Motion passes 704. Entertain a motion for the minutes.
They
Oh,
were
those are on there.
passed.
Sorry,
You already did
I
that.
didn't check them off. Woo!
You can go by 1, 2, and 3 that's listed under the
Yes.
consent agenda to the SB Friedman matter.
Yes, yes. We'll skip those. We'll move down. We don't have anything to, nothing was removed from the consent agenda. These new glasses, they're all kind of...
Uh-huh.
Any excuse, I guess. Under me, so we do have the discussion of SB Friedman on conflict concerns.
Do you want me to just start with a brief
By all means.
summary? David can also join in with anything he wants to contribute. During the joint review board meeting on July 8th, there was a concern brought to the board's attention by a member of the public who had concerns that SB Friedman was also representing Stillman Valley in some capacity, and so they had asked if that was a conflict. Jeff had said he didn't feel it was. He did have some more to add to that, but I kind of will let Jeff fill in what his view was on the potential conflict with Stillman Valley. Jeff.
Jeff?
Sure, do you want me to go ahead?
Go ahead.
I can hear you, I think that was my prompt, if I heard right.
It was.
Yeah, the question was raised, we're working for Stillman Valley on a TIF designation. They were working on creating a TIF district in their downtown, and someone at the JRB meeting mentioned that there may be a dollar store contemplating moving to Stillman Valley, and they were concerned, I think, that we might not be serving you well if we were serving them. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. And I mentioned at the JRB meeting that we are working on the creation of the TIF, but I didn't have any knowledge of any specific transactions. So again, it's the village board's decision whether there's concerns about conflict.
Elizabeth, can you mute your mic?
Designation work is pretty objective, and it's not an advocacy role. We're not out to win. We're out to do a good job and a conscientious job and a thoughtful job. We didn't work on your transaction either, I guess. So it didn't bother me a lot, but obviously I'm happy to talk about it. If it bothers you guys, then it bothers me. That's I think the spirit of the conversation tonight.
So just doing our due diligence and checking them, does anybody here have any questions regarding it being a conflict of interest of them working with Stillman Valley as well?
I have no problem with it.
No.
Do you see any?
No. As was explained, it did come up at the JRB meeting. I think Jeff did a very effective job addressing it that afternoon during that meeting. It would not be any type of legal conflict of interest, and they'd be better to determine whether it was. It is often the case that TIF consultants, be it SB Friedman, Kane McKenna, whoever, there's a lot of these consultants working across the state, they oftentimes work in neighboring municipalities, setting up TIF districts. A neighboring municipality finds out that so-and-so is doing a TIF district in one community, they engage them to do it in their community. Jeff, do you want to talk about the developer recruitment side of it? I know that came up at the JRB meeting.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I did want to say is I should have mentioned it to the village. So that was my oversight. I should have made you all aware of that engagement, and that's not the way I like to handle things. So I apologize for that. I should have at least you shouldn't be finding out. I'd like people to find out about this stuff on the front end, not on the back end. So that was my mistake. So I apologize for that. The developer recruitment side, if it's, we've been talking with, it came up at the JRB meeting, and we do help communities try to attract development, particularly when they own land, as you do. And so we could help the village in that regard. That's more of an advocacy role. We'd be your advocate, and we'd be looking to help you attract more development to the TIF districts. Again, we're not playing that role in Stillman Valley, and I think if we were to do that work for you, that would preclude us from doing similar work for Stillman Valley, because that is clearly a place where a tenant might only want to go to one of your two villages, and so that I don't think we could play the middle ground on that one, but we feel more comfortable, as I say, with designations, because it's less trying to catch the one fish that's swimming by, or a particular fish or the biggest fish or whatever for a community. So I would see that differently, I guess. I think that's maybe what you were looking for me to talk about, David. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Rick?
Yes.
Sure.
Jeff, just to clarify, so because you are not representing David Junction in an advocacy role, would you take on an advocacy role for Stillman Valley at this time?
They haven't asked. I would feel obligated to talk to you guys first, since you were my clients first, and see if you're okay with that. I think I'm just talking off the top of my head, but I feel like I got to talk to the folks that I've worked with for years, and if you're not comfortable with it, I would suspect that we would say no. That would be my guess. We'd have to talk it through. If it's $1 trillion contract, that might be a different story, but I don't think that's the case. So I think the odds are, if they want us to do something that makes you uncomfortable, we'd have to pass on that, and that would be fine. We like to keep our clients happy, and you guys have been clients for a long time.
Stillman Valley has a right to entertain a TIF district on their own, just as any other municipality. And, for what it sounds like, if it was downtown, you said?
Yes.
It would suit them well. I don't have a problem doing it. I would have a personal opinion that I would not prefer SB Friedman to do it in support of bringing in a dollar store to compete against ours. Because I know residents of Stillman Valley are coming here to shop in our town for that. And if we're using our own TIF advisor to do the same thing in another town, but if you're saying that's not the end goal at the moment?
That's not the work we've been asked to do so far, so I don't doubt that they may be working on that, but we don't have any information on that. And I appreciate your point of view. I agree. I think that's pretty close. That's too close to home, probably. You know what I mean? If that's what they're working on, I don't think we should help them. I think they could get some other help. But we just haven't had that role yet. So, and it may never get that rule, but I appreciate that would be a sensitive area, and that would be a problem probably.
I will say to Jeff, I don't want to say defense, but in favor of Jeff, he did not know prior to going into the JRB that Stillman Valley had even been looking at a Dollar General, and that was the first time that he had heard that. Correct?
Correct, yeah. I think, yeah, and I haven't asked Stillman Valley about it, because I kind of just stay in my own lane. You know, I guess I could ask him about it if you want me to and find out, you know, and again, I'm not doubting the person who said it being right. I just don't, you know, I haven't really pursued it with them. We just kind of been doing our designation work, but I could ask to get some more clarity if that would be helpful to the board.
Can I ask a question real quick? So like I had thought, and I was not at it, so I can't verify, but I thought they had had a meeting in Stillman Valley already where they were discussing about the Dollar General, and I know personally, like, people have gone to that and they were discussing that, and that was what was being discussed. And maybe it's not public yet, but that was. So I am concerned about that somewhat, because we have like what William had said, maybe that's not something that they have shared with them yet, but that is a concern, because that is what the homeowners that live in that area are all concerned about, because that's what, when they asked some members of the village board, that's what they were told.
So,
At the end of the day, if they don't use SB Freedman, they're gonna use another company, and they're gonna get to the end goal anyways, but
And they might, but that's still a concern for me.
I agree.
I don't know why it'd be so much of a concern, because Dollar General knows whether or not the area can support two stores or not. I'm sure they're more,
And
in-depth research and development than we would have, so.
I don't know if you've ever been in Dollar General on a Monday. That store's
Tried, it was closed.
What's that?
I tried, it was closed till
Oh.
noon for restocking.
They're usually wiped out, that's why. So what it would actually do is if they did open a store in Stillman, it would actually give our residents more options for, if the Stillman people that weren't here buying
I was gonna say
stuff.
not necessarily,
we-
because I bet you they'd get their trucks on the same days.
Well, but if we had, you know,
Yeah, it probably would.
12 loaves of bread there and 12 loaves
Right.
of bread here, you got 24 now instead of just the 12. So it would actually probably leave more on the shelves here every week for our residents to buy, and they wouldn't have to go elsewhere.
From the devil's advocate, from the village standpoint,
You,
we would rather have them build a bigger store to support the inventory and the consumer load. I mean, would we not?
oh, I would love that.
Obviously, we can't force that hand of Dollar General.
No.
But I think we're getting off topic.
Any concerns? All right, then we'll move on.
if we don't need them anymore, you can probably let Jeff and Elizabeth go.
Jeff, Elizabeth? If you guys wanna drop
Yeah.
out, you can. We're done.
Okay, thanks for the chat. I will keep you, better informed in the future. I'm sorry for not, getting that in front of you guys before that meeting. So we'll do better in the future. We appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for attending.
Hey, is he still there?
Yep.
Oh,
Talk to you
hold
later.
on a moment.
Yep. Talk to you later. Have a good night. Oh, sure.
Go ahead, William.
I would entertain information on your, recruitment portfolio or process.
You might have
I
to,
couldn't hear that one,
He said
sorry.
he would entertain information on your recruitment portfolio or your process.
So,
Oh, yeah, we can provide that. We've got, scopes of work that we've used in some, different communities of varying sizes, from big to small. So we'll provide some of that information to you.
Thank you.
Did you want me to talk about it now? I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. I can give you a verbal
No.
chat right now, if that's helpful.
can you tell them to send it
Okay.
to Brenda?
Send it to Brenda, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
will do.
Have a good
All
night.
right. All right, have a good night. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
I think we're clear of the phone.
What time is that?
7:15. All right, next item on the agenda is the food truck ordinance, the zoning change.
We had a meeting last Monday, a week ago Monday, regarding, a public hearing, for the, licensing text amendment change for mobile food services. We wanted to be able to open it up so that other food trucks could, set up business here in town and hopefully generate some more sales tax. We did, take into consideration the sports teams, and we, added 1,500 feet away from the community park when sports events are going on that we sponsor and our concession stand is open. So that hopefully, it's too far for them to walk to the other truck. So, if you have any questions, if I can answer them, I will.
Need a motion and a second for discussion.
Scroll it down, and then I can do,
It's right here.
okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance number 20-13, an ordinance approving a zoning text amendment, and licensing for mobile food services.
Second.
Dina makes a motion to approve ordinance number 20-13. Jared seconds. On the discussion.
I have a question. When is this gonna take effect?
As soon as you pass it.
Because I have somebody coming in on Saturday night for our movie in the park because we don't have a concession stand.
As soon as it's passed and signed.
There is a slight allowance in there that says that if the village approves the food truck, we're still okay, because
Okay.
otherwise the farmer's market food trucks wouldn't be allowed
Right,
either.
it is one of
Yep.
our food, our
Yes,
vendors.
so if you are allowing it during a village event, then it's allowable.
Yes, because they are one of our vendors for the farmer's market tomorrow night, so.
And you do have what they call prosecutorial discretion in, using your ordinances. So you can have flexibility in an interim period while you get all the materials together for these.
Okay.
So,
Would love to see more of that, because I drive by Tuesday nights on the way home, Mississippi, there's 6 to 8 food trucks parked in there, and,
If
Tons
you
of
can
people.
find a way for them to come down here,
well, they're not gonna come here on Tuesday.
no, well, I'm just saying, they don't wanna come down this far because they like that foot traffic,
They
and
need
we don't
that
have that
Right,
traffic, that foot traffic.
and we won't as long as they don't come.
I read that exception, but I wasn't exactly sure who's the authority on it.
Chris, can you use your mic, please?
Sure. I read the exception. I just wanted to know who's the authority.
The village, so it does say, or has received the express consent of the village board to operate within the prohibited zone.
So it's the board.
Yes.
All right, that's all I wanted to know. Thanks.
Any
Every time
fur-
we wanna do that, we gotta take a vote up.
If it's within the prohibited zone. And I don't know, David, I don't know if it needs to be formal or just the village board is, give a blessing, it's okay.
the village board can give its blessing. You don't have, you're just gonna say, that's fine, you can operate there, yeah.
Yeah, so Jen telling you and nobody objecting?
Well, usually when I'm asked or I talk to people, I usually run it by Sandy, so.
No, we can call around.
Send it.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Then roll call, please.
John?
Yes.
Dina?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Motion passes at 7:19. We will move on to, let's just hit it now. There was discussion today on the community page about the water bills. Figured we'll at least address it a little bit. People wondering if we making them pay for their water bill now, or if we snuck something into their bills to raise it. In January, the board did pass a raise on the water bills of 1/4 on both the water and the sewer side. That bill was paid, the first payment of that would have been in February, and then I believe in March. It's April and May, the 2 free months. Then May was half off. June was a, full month, and now July's water bill has been a full month. I would ask people to really consider looking at their usage. If they have any questions, please contact the village clerk. She can give you a usage report. It's probably not a real fair thing to compare. June is a summer month, but if you're trying to compare February to July, it's not a really fair comparison. If you are not watering and seeing excessive water use, you might want to start looking for a leak in your system.
Toilet that runs.
Toilet that runs, anything along those lines.
A hose left on?
something.
Well, and keep in mind, if people are watering their lawn, watering their flower beds and their gardens as well, and I think sometimes that's also maybe forgotten as well.
It does, but I mean, and if there's an issue, you can't find any leaks and you haven't been watering, I mean, by all means, contact us. We're not here to fight people, we're here to help people. But I want to at least get it out there, that if you do have a question about your water bill, call the village. They can print you out a usage report so you can see what your average usage has been, and then maybe walk you through where you can look for leaks and how you can try and find the solution to this.
What's that right now, $3.75
Mhm.
per thousand for both water and sewer?
Yes.
All right,
So, yeah, the 25-cent rate is per thousand
Per.
gallons.
yeah, per 1,000 gallons,
Yes.
right?
For water and per sewer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant,
Yeah.
what, right,
So to clarify, the rates went from $3.50 to $3.75
yes,
per 1,000 gallons.
for each side.
Yeah.
It's, sometimes you don't realize that you gotta pay you use 4,000 gallons worth of water, you pay $3.75 for each, times
Right.
4 on both sides.
Probably a good time to remind people.
But I was just gonna say, unless
Yeah.
you have the second meter, you are allowed to have a second meter, which works for irrigation and outside water usage, which does not go through our sewer plant, and then those rates will be deducted from your, main
Okay.
water usage.
And then if I could mention too, I know, and again, I just came from one place to the other, but I know there was mention of the fact that whether or not people were paying for it now or whether something was snuck in, the rate that was changed or, modified when we passed it in January was literally a round of about 5 months plus of conversation just this year,
Mhm.
and discussed at every single board meeting. And I think information was sent out in emails and on a Facebook page, everything like that as well.
No, everything was done with plenty of notification. It was always discussed here at the meetings. These meetings have been available online for quite a while now, so people can watch them at their own time frame. I wouldn't say leisure. It's probably pretty boring watching us talk.
We should be able to tell somebody what their average bill would be if you use whatever amount of water. What did we decide, was it 6,000 gallons?
6,000 gallons is what we decided was the average usage. But as I tell people when they move into this town, I've got residents whose average usage is 1,000 to 2,000 gallons, and I have residents whose average usage is 20,000 gallons. So it really depends upon your household's individual usage. But Rick's right, if they call me and get those usage reports, they can see their long-term usage and what they typically use during months. And if there's a dramatic increase, that's a sign that they should probably be looking for a leak somewhere.
No, I understand. In the summer months, I fill up my pool, so, not the whole thing, but, I add water to it on a regular basis. And it cost me a lot more. I actually considered putting in the second meter.
Yeah, well,
I
right.
just haven't wanted to
the-
bite the bullet for, what, 275? Is that what it is?
Well, I think it's up to 4.
Is it?
Should have bit the bullet, too.
The
So
second
apparently
second
I
meter is allowable by the village. It does have to be installed by an Illinois licensed plumber. It does have to have protection, which is an RPZ valve, to keep it from being able to backflow into the potable water system. So there are some
Only if it's an
requirements.
irrigation system.
Unless you have,
Yeah.
the only exception is if you have if it's just hooked to an external sillcock with the, anti-siphon on it, then you don't. So, but the rules are all written out in the ordinances. Anybody have anything further on that? Just wanted to address it, because it came up today and it seemed like it was getting silly at times, and I'd much rather have them call down here and get the facts.
Just a correction, the secondary meter new cost is $350.
Okay, thanks.
On that secondary meter, you would not pay sewer.
No
just
sewer cost
water.
incurred.
All right. Clerk,
I do not have anything.
treasurer,
Hold on. Oh, you looked at me like I had something. I don't have anything.
No. I was surprised.
we may entertain ourselves.
Okay, in the board packet, you'll see the treasurer's report for July. And, did everybody send their answers to Sickich? I
No.
see one yes.
I did not.
Okay,
I will
please,
do it before I leave
please
tonight.
do that.
I might start emailing you guys every day, except for
You might need to
one
send me an
person.
email, 'cause
Text.
I forgot all about it from the last meeting. If you would, I'd appreciate it. Then I'll do it.
I will literally do it
Otherwise, I'm
probably.
gonna
Okay, I'll
forget
send you
all
an
about
email
it.
to look in where to find your email.
No.
The June 22nd.
The email.
Saying I'll answer it,
Last night,
I
this
just
morning, I
forgot.
was really gonna do it.
What happened from Tuesday till yesterday?
Busy.
Okay.
You only had
I even tagged it, so.
All right, that's all I have for now, and
I remember.
I'll be bringing it back up.
Yes.
Forgot about it.
All right, David,
Nothing at this time.
move to committees, community development and events. Obviously Saturday.
We have our second market tomorrow, farmer's market tomorrow night. I have 2 food vendors coming. One is a pizza, wood-fired pizza truck. The other one is how can I explain? It's a shaved ice / cotton candy. They, sell outside in Byron, outside of the Byron Museum. And I went and I talked to them and I tried it, and it is, they take and put ice cream on the bottom, shaved ice over the top, and then they have themes of your flavors, and they put your flavors on there, and they dump condensed milk over the top of it.
So super healthy.
It is extremely delicious.
The middle part.
Cavity in a cup.
It is extremely delicious. And then they have regular cotton candy, and they will flavor it, like Oreo, cookie, whatever they put, sprinkle, it's magic. It's
Well,
magically sugary, it's
I can buy her one, 'cause she's sitting there looking at me like her lip.
So they will be there tomorrow night, and that is the truck that is coming on, Saturday night for our movie in the park.
Oh, how fun.
That's tomorrow night, David.
So tomorrow night, we have farmers in the market. I do have a few vendors that aren't able to make it because they have had no power right now, and they aren't able to bake their breads and their, the other one was the dog treats, the homemade dog treats and stuff like that. So there'll be a few vendors down, but we'll have the food ones. And the ever so famously Ralphie's Barbecue was supposed to come, and she sent me a nice email, text, that she has lost staff because of COVID and having a hard time staffing the event. They can do enough to do their private events, but to do another event, but she said she's going to try and hire to be able to hopefully start coming in September. But they know that they are well-liked and they do very well here, so they're in a hurry to come back. And then on our movie on Saturday night, we have popcorn left over in the concessions that obviously wasn't used this year, so we are popping that and giving that out to people. So we're gonna hand that out. We'll have that shaved ice truck, cotton candy, we got it all going on. And the movie is gonna be The Croods. And if you don't know what it is, it's a cartoon movie. It's quite a few years old. It is about a family who they're cave people, and they live in the cave, and the girl can't wait to just get out because her family doesn't let her get out. So we're all used to this with this quarantine. Everybody wants to get out, so I thought it would be a good movie for families to sit back and watch and laugh. Because I hadn't seen it, my kids had on DVD, so I had to watch it. So, but I think it'll be a good movie for families to come out and see. And that's all I have.
All right. Finance?
We do have an emergency expenditure. As everyone is aware, we are redoing the water tower. That's just everyone on the board is aware. We're redoing the water tower. And in the process, that means the water tower needs to be drained. We have to have portable tanks brought in to store water. It is a lengthy process, but the least amount of time that water tower is down is best for the village, either, for fire protection and for, consumption. And when are they starting, do we know?
We're shooting for the end of this month, the first week of September.
So we're within a couple of weeks, a few weeks. One thing we found out was, the antennas on the tower need to be moved, and we need that scheduled and moved well before they get here. So.
That's our antennas, right?
Our antennas, village-owned antennas, not the Verizon, not the LR antennas, not the Ogle County.
It's our network.
Our antennas. So, I guess it was an oversight, but we had to get a quick quote on it, and to get the work scheduled and done, it's a process to arrange, temporary housing for the antenna, through Verizon. Do you wanna talk about it?
No, basically, it's just gonna be kind of like rerouting and adding and subtracting some, thank you, Brenda. And this is the company that installed all of this, so it is their equipment, they know it. We were originally gonna work with another contractor, but that contractor does not know our system, how to get a temporary fix to keep, our remote access to our wastewater plant, our water plant. So that is why we went with the contractor that Billy is speaking of.
Yeah,
because
I talked with him on his
his
way out
system.
here. He just said that he was trying to come out and try to figure out a way to keep everything functioning while the antennas are off the tower.
Correct, yes.
This is a quote, this emergency expenditure is simply to move the equipment off the tower. He's gonna provide us a quote to reinstall it, as well as, because of the age of the equipment, he believes that it might be silly for us to put it back up and take it down here in a year or two for replacement. So he's gonna give us a quote on new stuff as well.
Did he talk to you about that?
Talk to Brett.
He's,
What I liked about that was we get rid of all those servers at every site, and we go to radios on gigabit service,
yes,
and you can eliminate a lot of equipment,
yes.
and everything comes back to Village Hall then.
We should see the quote here, I would think, any day now.
I like that, I like the
Yeah,
idea
new.
of getting rid of old equipment.
The emergency expenditures, $8,400. So, how do you say that? Boston?
Visacnic?
By socket.
Soknick Contracting Company?
Just so you,
Yeah, it's just.
Jesse, yeah. You could add this to the, can we make a motion right now? Okay. I make a motion to approve an emergency expenditure to this, the Soknick Contracting Company in the amount of $8,400 to do work to move village equipment from the water tower.
Second.
So Will makes a motion to approve an emergency expenditure to Visacnic Contracting Company in the amount of $8,400. Jared, second. Is there any discussion? I don't know, can you discuss emergency? Roll call, it's money.
Dina,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
John.
yes.
Motion passes 7-3.
We'll let them know?
Can I have that paper back after the meeting? Oh, that's
Take it.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, I had asked for discussion of off-road vehicles, and I'm gonna need your documentation.
Oh. You have my chair.
Early this summer, I started noticing an off-road vehicle coming around, and, at excessive speed. I stopped and talked to the individual, basically told me really didn't give a damn, to put it politely. So then, background, I'm gonna say this, the village board, I'm not gonna say this board because you guys weren't on here, but over the 10, 15 years I've lived here, I've lobbied to have golf carts or anything else allowed here, and it's always been shot down by everyone that's been presented. Now, 99% of the community always complies with, you know, social order and the ordinances, and when they don't, just because they aren't aware of the codes or the ordinances, and we inform them about it, and they simply comply 9 times out of 10, and we don't have any problems. However, this individual is not, and he's throwing it in our face, in my opinion, and because nobody's enforcing it on him, other residents are now thinking it's okay, and I've noticed an uptick in off-road vehicle traffic, not only in the roads, but on village property, in the parks, going through the stockpile down at the end of Lincoln, going off-road. So this is just simply 1 week worth of pictures that I was able to find.
I was gonna say, the specific individual you're talking about has been stopped by Ogle County and talked to, and he was a jerk to Ogle County too, because that
Yeah.
deputy
Ogle County
called
was out
me.
here today looking for him.
So
Mhm.
why didn't they ticket him?
Because that's when the deputy called me and asked me if I was still on the board, and I said yes, and asked for the ordinance, and that's when I got the ordinance, and I printed it out and I gave it to him. So they do have it so they can reinforce it.
Yeah, 'cause I had a resident call me today saying that they called Ogle County, and about half an hour, 45 minutes later, here comes Ogle County looking for them.
Mhm.
Well, right now, here, this picture here, they're on village property here. This is in our park. There's a video of them drag racing down Lincoln. I don't have that video. They're coming into a construction site of the village right here that we're working on this week. There's a quad coming through our park here.
Side by side.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's side by side.
It's getting to the point now, that there's even, somebody started a Facebook page about off-road vehicles in the town, and they're trying to gather up meets and go riding through town. Now,
They're doing it in Chicago.
that's a different thing. This is only 1 week. This is from last Tuesday to yesterday that I was able to acquire.
That's how excessive it is. It's a nuisance in my neighborhood, where I live. I wanna know what the board wants to do about it, how to enforce it, or are we gonna change the ordinance to allow it?
Can I, because you and I talked about this last week.
Yes, I contacted David, and I asked for what's our options from a village standpoint, and I've asked this option twice, probably in my past tenure on the board, but, go ahead.
So, this brings up the issue that the village has faced for years about how does it enforce its ordinances. Because right now, your ordinances track state law. These aren't street legal vehicles. But because the village operates without a police department, you don't have any real ability to enforce moving violations on public roadways, or for that matter, on public property. So, the county has been, at best, not super helpful in the past when we've asked them to help us enforce our ordinances. For instance, as Jared pointed out a few minutes ago, 45 minutes later they show up. That's not gonna be good on a moving violation issue. So, there are options that in William, when William and I were talking about it, I said I'd put together some options, and I don't wanna mischaracterize what you're saying, but, I mean, one of the things the village could do is just simply make them legal on village streets and other village property, with certain restrictions on timing, days of the week, whatever. There's a lot of things you can do on your own roads. You have no jurisdictional control on 72 or 251, obviously, those are state highways. But on your own roads, you can actually make these legal. State law would allow you to do that.
David,
Yeah.
can I ask, like, so if we put some of those restrictions in place, then wouldn't we still just have more things to enforce that we don't already enforce?
Exactly.
Okay, I mean, and, yeah.
I mean, years ago, the village faced a situation when it started, really enforcing its zoning ordinances. And we had a gentleman who decided to put up a 6-foot stockade fence around his property, creating a blind corner. The village had to make a decision on how they wanted to deal with that. Ultimately, and John, I think you might remember this, we ultimately took him to court, because the village had determined that there's a reason why we have ordinances and we need to start enforcing them so that, like, everyone can enjoy living in Davis Junction, not just people who want to live in Davis Junction on their own terms. That's what this is. So, you do have options. You can amend your ordinance, you can relax the restrictions on these vehicles, or you can keep things as they are now. But you're gonna have the enforcement problem until you decide what you wanna do with the local police department, because the type of ticket you have to write for moving violations has to be written by a uniformed peace officer.
Yeah, they can
Because
do
it's a
that.
lot of
They
tickets,
can,
you turn signals, headlights.
But they can do that under state statute. They can ticket somebody riding
Oh, sure.
an
Yeah, they
ATV
ticket
or
and they-
on
Discretionary, but-
a dirt
Don't-
motorcycle on the street.
So-
I mean, as far as understand, is it not illegal to have a motorized vehicle that isn't licensed on the street?
Certain vehicles are not street legal, so ATVs are not a legal vehicle to be driven on state roads. And local jurisdictions typically adopt that state statute for their own purposes, and you have done that.
So, could we just send a letter to the Ogle County Sheriff's Department telling them that we have this ordinance, we would appreciate them to enforce it?
Well, and that was my point earlier on, that we have done that in the past on other things, and we've only had scattered success using Ogle County Sheriff for those purposes. They don't seem to be very responsive to the bill.
Well, clearly, without our own police department, which we're not gonna have anytime soon, our only recourse would be to ask the Ogle County Sheriff's Department to
That is-
actually
that is
enforce it. But if they're having questions to some of us, so some of the Ogle County Sheriff's Department, maybe it's a good idea for, the village clerk or somebody to send them a letter saying, please, here's our ordinance, please enforce our ordinance. We find it dangerous that people driving ATVs and unauthorized vehicles on the roadway. I mean, that would be my preference for,
We already
Right.
the ordinance enforcement already sends a letter when we know where they live, but otherwise we don't know where to send them
I
to.
think he's talking in general, send the ordinance, say, if
He sends
you're
it-
in town
he
and
sends
you
it
see
to
it,
the
Hold
please.
on, too many people are talking, what?
He's talking in general, send it to the Ogle County Sheriff's Office saying that you can enforce this, this is our rule, please.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant
If you
the
see somebody
individual
riding one-
owner.
A little bit more history on this, and some of the board members may remember this, some of the newer ones may not. Several years ago, we did try to, and actually, I think we did enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the sheriff's office to start enforcing some of our ordinances. But they were very unresponsive, even in that scenario.
I don't think it got that far. I think
It may not have
the
gotten.
Never
county
has.
board did not get on board because the sheriff, the money was gonna go to the general fund of the county, and the sheriff had a problem with that.
Mhm.
I don't recall us ever.
was that
So-
old sheriff though, right?
That was the old sheriff,
Yes.
yes.
Don't we,
The bit of history too,
No, it wasn't. That was our current sheriff.
Van Dickel?
Yeah, yes, Brenda and I both
to give a
agreed
little
that
history on
that
the
board.
ATVs in the village was,
Was it current?
there used to be a child on Autumnwood, or, I'm sorry, on Harvest Glen, that would come up between the houses, through the ditch, and right out into the street in front of cars on a small quad. And that's when the village addressed it by passing the ordinance to ban them in the village. The idea of people riding around on golf carts or side-by-sides or other vehicles, has come up multiple times about allowing them to happen in the village with some kind of licensing or whatever that may be. And we've talked about allowing quads to, as long as it's like the snowmobiles, where they can ride along the edge of the road to get to the trails and then go riding on the trails. But while you're driving through the village, act civil. Don't go tearing through people's yards,
And
don't.
that's kind of been the way we've been operating it.
It has been for a long time. Well, I really think with people being cooped up for so long, that's why you're seeing this uptick, is people have more time. They're sitting at home, they've got time to do this stuff, and they're getting bored, so they're going out and doing this stuff.
Well,
I don't think
I
it's gonna
disagree.
stop, though.
this individual that started this is riding through neighborhoods, up and down dead-end roads that he has no business being on, and everybody else is seeing, oh, well, apparently this has been going on for months. I think it must be okay. Nobody's enforcing this. So now I have a quad, I'm gonna go out too, and I have a side-by-side, I'm gonna go out too. I don't think it's.
What you do is, you
Don't
do
we
the
have-
same thing we did with the fence, is you grab that one individual, do
Yes.
the same thing we did with the fence, and you make an example of that one individual, and that will spread just as.
I agree.
Just as rapidly as, let's go do it, it will spread the other way just the same, so.
Gina's got something she wants to say back there.
I was just gonna ask,
What I was worth.
when I was reading or whatever, don't we have a fine that's a certain dollar amount, that's a fine that we have for them? And my question would be for this individual, have they been sent a letter to fine them? And I know in order to collect that, we'd probably have to enforce it legally if they didn't pay it, but have they been sent a letter to,
Right. They have to be, they
Huh?
have to have more than 5 acres, and it's gotta be in their yard.
No.
Alright, so what you read in the board packet does say that we adopted a fine of $750. I spearheaded that back when I was a trustee. It is very restrictive, though. It has to be on somebody's property. So you have to view them riding a vehicle on their property and be able to prove that that was the person that rode the vehicle on that property. It is very difficult to still enforce, but it gave us something to move forward and try to enforce versus nothing.
So my question is, if we have that proof that they were on our property, why can't we, I don't understand
So
that.
the fine is to the property owner. So the fine is to the person who is allowing it to occur on their property. So we can't fine the Village of Davis Junction, but if, in this, it was helpful in one scenario in which somebody kept riding their dirt bike around in their backyard. In that instance, we knew that person belonged to that house. I was able to send a letter with some teeth to it because we knew what the incident was, and the fine would go to the property owner for allowing it.
That's why we had to get rid of Justin's go-kart when he was 8.
Yeah.
So we made him get rid of it. Okay, fair. Thanks for clarifying.
You know, part of this also might stem from the fact that before people would come out to the undeveloped portion of Plot 10 and ride there. Yeah, and I mean, I've lived there for, I don't know, 10, 12 years, whatever it is, and all the time there would be people riding on undeveloped lots, and they don't seem to be doing that as much now because they've built, homes, and they spread them apart, so it makes it much more difficult. So maybe they don't have anywhere else to go, which is no excuse because that wasn't their property either, and they couldn't legally ride on, whoever's development's property it was, but that might be contributing to the problem too.
I gave the individuals the benefit of the doubt about not knowing the code, but I stopped and talked to an adult. I mean, he was a grown adult, over 40, and he flat out, swore at me and told me he just did not give a damn. And so they know what it is, and they're blatantly operating against our code. So this is one of those where I think the village needs to dig in somehow and make an example. My question is how? It's the police office only?
Yes, because it is a moving violation, yeah. So it's a specific type of statutory ticket that has to be written by a police officer.
So our option is to continue calling the sheriff
Yes.
at this point.
And waiting for them to show up.
So, do you know where this
Unless
person lives?
somebody recognizes them, can we do something then?
Somebody recognize me?
I
Oh,
have no idea.
You gotta catch them in the act.
So if I catch
would it help
I
if
know
you knew
who
where
he
this
is.
person
We
lived?
know who
That's
he
what I'm
is.
talking
And I
about.
know where he lives.
We know who he is.
You're
Oh,
not a
wait,
police
yeah,
officer.
because
that?
we've
Not a
also,
police officer.
and
You
he's,
could video.
You
he's a
can't
child.
write
The
the
kid,
ticket.
the person riding it is like 13,
Well, then you ain't gonna get no
first,
one
yeah,
with
second
that.
all. Matter of
I'm
fact,
gonna
we were
guess
coming
they're
down
father
Junction
that
Road
wrote it. I talked to
yesterday, and they were in front of us.
Yeah, I followed him on Junction Road across the tracks the other day.
Yep.
They come to Dollar General and shop.
Direct quote, I don't give a shit.
Right.
Yes, that is the quote.
It's out
Or-
No, he said,
It
I'm from
wasn't
I'm from
No, he
Rockford,
said,
I don't care.
Yeah.
Then go back to
My,
Rockford.
my,
I
Yeah.
can do what I want.
my concern that I have seen and I have been behind are kids who are on them and probably don't have training or any safety card and no helmets, and they are driving down the middle of the street, right
That's not the
through
issue
stop
with
signs,
safety.
and they're not very stable.
There's one that flies up and down Autumn Wolf.
Well, I think we know it's not right to be doing it. I think the question we're trying to answer is how do we proceed forward? We all
Right.
can sit here all night and tell our stories about all the quads we've seen, but we need to decide what we want to do. And David has offered to us, we need to get Ogle County Sheriff to write the ticket to get the ball moving. So I don't know why.
I
we have to
will
keep
call
beating
the
this to
sheriff
death.
again and see if he could be as responsive as he
We'll be
was
here all
with
night.
fireworks.
At least for a
He
while.
did wonderful for us with the fireworks.
At least for a while, to
Nancy,
make a,
you have that microphone?
Wait,
You have to have a contaminated microphone.
And Nancy, I feel ask that you move up here when speaking so that you're on video as well. Otherwise people can't, now you gotta move like all the way up.
You gotta be on video.
Gotta be up by John.
I don't wanna
There you
be
go.
Dina.
Just sit next to John.
Deal.
I'd just like to point out that I myself live on the highway in Davis Junction, and I watch the quads and the dirt bikes go down the highway without licenses, followed by cops with lights and sirens. And the first thing they do is get up to the railroad tracks and go
Yeah.
north or south, because that's how they get away from them.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter what you do, they know how to get off-road and avoid the cops. The cops know they're out there. My question is, to David is, can we confiscate their vehicles?
That would be very difficult to do.
Parents would be really ticked off if you showed up and took their kid's quad or dirt bike.
County,
what
if
if-
you stop them, the county will impound their four-wheeler or ATV. They will
The county has
impound.
the option.
If they can catch them.
If they can catch them, they will impound.
Can we not if they're on village property?
They have the option.
Because
Can't
there's
just
several
confiscate.
tickets they can
You
write.
can't just confiscate property that way. There's a whole process to that.
Yeah, 'cause there's several tickets they will get.
Good to see you.
on
And
top
it's
of
still
it.
discretionary on the officer's part whether he wants to.
So we're handing out the sheriff's number, 911? Is that what I gather?
Maybe the non-emergency line.
Maybe a conversation first, would,
The conversations aren't working.
it's
Well, our
already
last
out.
one did.
It's the only option we have.
Last one was well, and he responded very well, and had, I believe, at least 3 officers here for our fireworks, and,
No, I was
So, David,
with
So-
people.
calling.
other than letting Ogle County
Oh, with Coble County.
take over and do that, is there any other option at that point?
Sure, you could go through administrative adjudication. You at one, are you still using the local attorney to help you with administrative?
I have all that information,
Yeah.
but we need a peace officer to write that ticket first, correct?
Well, at least on the village's property and other restricted areas, village streets, you can take the evidence and take it to administrative adjudication and do an ordinance fine. You can do that. That is available to you. It is a violation
That's
of
what
our
I wanna
ordinance.
know.
But it's pulling together all of that, evidence. You gotta be able to definitively, the pictures you showed, I don't know if you'd be able to tell who those people are. Could you definitively,
I can point them
I
out.
was gonna say, a lot of us
I've
would
looked
have-
right at them in the
Yep,
face,
have
and I know who they are.
You know
I can-
exactly who they are.
you gotta get the picture of them, so you can really visually identify them
You
in the
want me to put
picture.
it up there?
He pushed his quad there.
I was gonna say,
I mean,
Nate's back there raising his
Nate-
hand, he knows.
This is more, the most effective way to deal with it is with police.
So-
But you could do administrative adjudication, but it's a lot more things you gotta.
But
pull
just so the
together.
board knows, Sandy did talk to the local attorney. To set that process up is, $300 an hour, and it will take about 10 hours. And then to hold an adjudication hearing, one per month, or to hold it for the month is $2,500.
So, we have an
A couple
option.
people on four-wheelers.
Who is the gentleman we
Yeah.
found out that is the, just consultant for law enforcement? How we could hire a peace officer, a part-time,
Yes, I emailed you
We
that
already did.
information. Are you talking about after you talked to Cookie from Cortland? Yes, I
Looking
think
at
I emailed you that
300,000.
information.
all right, I will
Uh,
talk to him too.
So the cheaper option, and something that I think Brenda just mentioned, and I've also mentioned when I talked to our local attorney, is possibly consolidating our administrative adjudication with other municipalities, which is not unheard of. Kingston, Kirkland, and Genoa currently do it, and it reduces the cost.
We've all-
And it reduces the cost of the municipalities paying for the administrative judge to come as well. So that's a possibility, as well as if we want to head down that route, is to contact Rochelle or one of the other municipalities in Ogle County that currently has it, and see if we can jump on board with them.
Start with the call of the sheriff and
Yep.
reevaluate, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
I wouldn't rule that out, that administrative adjudication. It might cost you, but once somebody knows that you're willing to do it, it might
Well,
put in
the-
and do a lot of it.
Right, but you gotta remember, we're talking about it for one particular incident, but the minute we set that up, it has a number of useful uses, i.e. ordinance violations, grass issues, it can be used for a whole
All our
conglomerate of
ordinances.
things. But
Yes.
it wouldn't be just for this particular incident.
So it would allow us to enforce all of our ordinances that we currently can't.
That's right.
So how much would it cost a year then? I mean, will we have the funding for it?
You would only schedule an adjudication hearing after you have a ticket that somebody needs to come before, what do you call that?
E-tickets?
No, not the P-tickets, but when you call before
Once
the
a month?
attorney who's operating it.
Oh.
The administrative
Administrative,
judge.
yeah.
So you'd only do it when we have a need, so it's not a regular cost,
Once a month, right?
If you had reason
if you
to.
had it.
Brett,
I would guess that we would be doing it like once a year.
he's over. Did you ever get to speak?
Oh, sorry, Nate.
Brett, go ahead, Brett.
No, I guess not speaking as a resident, not an employee. You know, we're talking about, you know, the adjudication, all that kind of stuff, and writing a ticket, but don't we still have the same problem? Is if it takes 45 minutes for a deputy to get here because they're on the other side of the county, or because we're way down at the bottom of the list because it's not important?
Sure.
How do we write the ticket?
In that case, they don't have to.
So you don't have to have a peace officer write a ticket to start the process?
For administrative adjudication?
Yes.
No, you just need to collect the evidence, hand it over to your lawyer who helps you with these local prosecutions, and then it's an ordinance violation. So it goes before the administrative law judge, who would be here, or perhaps at some shared facility with Rochelle or whoever you do something with, and then that person determines whether they are in fact guilty of the penalty.
So if we take a picture from 75 feet away on a kid on a motorcycle, how do we know who they are?
Well,
That's what he's
that's
saying, you
my
have to
point.
have the evidence.
That's what I'm getting at, is
That's my point.
how does that work then? That's my point, is I look at it as we're still at square one, so.
Can we put this on committee for next week?
Yeah,
and
that'd be a
Yes.
good idea.
About it?
Let's bring it up then. We'll talk about it again.
You want Glenda to say her
Sure.
piece first?
And then, Nate. It is.
I think the
believe in
person
terms
that
of-
William is talking about was by my house almost every day. And he has now started riding without his helmet. Before, he had his helmet on all the time.
It's a whole lot
And
easier to identify
when
without a helmet.
I beg your pardon?
Much easier to identify him without a helmet.
Correct. My worry is when my dad was still alive and was working for one of the farmers, this farmer's son was out on his four-wheeler and got killed. He got hit by a car. It did happen in the country. It was on the country roads. However, the way that they're riding here in town, they get hit real easy by a car that just doing a normal thing and just doesn't see them.
No, 'cause if they
Yeah.
go past your house, the way some cars fly over the track.
Correct. And the way they take the corner at my home too is, not, and that's my fear, is that one of them, somebody's gonna end up dead.
And that was the few years ago when the one was coming up out of ditches in front of people.
Yeah.
You know, car just driving down the street and all of a sudden there's a quad
Yeah.
shooting at him.
And I do realize that they go down the access road for the railroad.
Isn't that illegal too?
Yes, it is.
Trespass.
But then too, we have adults driving cars that do the same thing and go down the access road by the railroad tracks. But we definitely need to make a few more calls to Ogle County.
Nate.
Nate? I'm patiently waiting.
Just real quick, after last Tuesday's meeting, I saw within the period of 2 days, 5 separate off-highway vehicles, including the individual that we were talking about. The individual, when I initially saw them months ago, would ride, stop at the lights, go, proceed. The individual is now going down to the end of Lincoln, doing burnouts and donuts, and is emboldened. I did stop them the other day. They were extremely disrespectful, mouthy, and basically the same kind of incident. And so I'm seeing an escalation in both the quantity and the brazenness and unsafe riding. Because at first when I saw him, I was like, oh, you know, he's got his helmet on, stops at the stop sign, he's going slow, taking it easy. Next thing you know, it's getting, you know, I saw bikes ride through the park the other day, through the grass, a motorcycle. So it's not just, you know, the fact that they're riding on the streets and they're now trespassing, riding through the parks and riding more aggressively and more dangerously. So I'm concerned about park patrons and the amount of trespass we're seeing in the park space.
And there are parks around here that are built for that purpose. They're not that far away.
Well, whether they're calm or brazen, used to be
be courteous riders, or now they're discourteous riders. That's not the point. The point is it's illegal. I mean, all that's just theatrics. It's illegal. It's very simple. It's illegal. You can add to it, fluff it any way you want, it's illegal. So, let's just move forward with what we've discussed.
Yep. Get on the agenda for next week. I'll
Or
talk to
make
the
a
sheriff
movie
this
about
week,
it, one or the other.
see if, there's anything we can do. I'll get a hold of that consultant if I can find this information. All right. Still on you, William.
Nothing else.
Ordinance enforcement,
Nothing.
parks,
Nope.
streets and ditches.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 20-53, a resolution accepting temporary construction easement in certain real property, 134 Autumnwood Lane and 136 Autumnwood Lane.
Second.
Chris makes a motion to approve resolution number 20-53. Jared seconds. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dina?
Yes.
Motion passes 8:02.
Heads up, you got one more of these coming.
Yep.
One more, easement?
Yeah.
All right.
Flip
Soon
it
as
over.
That 138?
Flip it
Yeah,
over.
I think so. The last
No.
one. No.
No, that's
Yeah.
something
No.
else. This is a different
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah, so as soon as I get that one, I'll put that one on the agenda for
All
you
right.
too.
I'll make a, make a motion to approve resolution number, 20-54, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of quote from Conan Incorporated for reshaping of ditches on Autumn Wolf Drive / Harvest Glen, Willow Bend Drive, and Autumn Wolf Drive / Autumn Wolf Lane.
Second.
If I read that right.
Chris makes a motion to approve resolution number 20-54. Jared seconds. Is there any discussion?
What are we reshaping? Is this,
This is work that we need to do on the ditches that, Fergie's team can't handle because they don't have enough time. Actually, there's probably quite a bit more, but, these are, more of the pressing matters, and, the quote that Fergie has was that the only people who ended up responding?
Out of the 4, yes.
Yeah, and, which we actually kind of thought was reasonable. We thought it would be more expensive, but he contacted 4 different companies and could only get one to respond. Apparently, they're either really busy or,
Some of them are just loaded with work.
yeah, or COVID, or
Most
who
of the
knows.
landscaping, concrete, any of those people, they are
Yeah, but,
very.
you know, for
Use
people,
not to work.
hey, I'm just
is this
saying
just
that,
shaping the dirt?
the ditches, hey, you could ask Fergie, because he could address it much better than me.
We'll pour out like we do on street projects, except minus the whistle tubes. So this will be coring from tube to tube, reshaping the ditch, sodding, everything.
Just putting grass back in?
Sod, yes, correct.
Can you clarify the, 2 different proposal, the 2 pages of the proposal that are in there? Because the original proposal and then the email with the amended dollar amount is also included.
No, you can, though.
Yeah.
Why was it 165 and the other 175?
One was without sod, one was with sod.
Does that clarify it for you?
She wasn't listening.
One was without sod, one was with sod.
And I believe you were asking for with sod?
With 75.
Correct, with sod.
Still in
You know,
discussion.
The resolution
just-
doesn't say which one
The email, I believe,
has both in it.
the email says that it's an updated number to the original quote. So I attached the original quote so you could see what the work that was done. But then on his email, he says, oh, if you want that, then this is the increased amount. That's why I asked for the clarification before it's voted upon.
Because the original one was seed.
So it's the
correct?
higher amount with
Yeah.
sod.
$7,500.
It's pretty cheap.
We thought it was a reasonable price.
And we're very happy with the company that did College Bank, so they've done work here before.
I've never heard of them.
We have a lot of a lot of ditch work that we need done, and it's very difficult, especially, in the diminished capacity of.
Does this take care of the one that is really long and grown on Autumn Wolf?
Yes, and I'm not sure if you were here or not when we actually discussed this, William. Yeah, I can. This is basically freeing the crew up to do stuff begin doing stuff that we've been putting off,
because ditch work, as everyone knows, ditch work, sinkholes, that consumes a huge part of our summer, too much, to be honest with you. So, since we're contracting some of this out, just so everyone knows, we've started, inventorying our bee boxes in the village, what has to be dug, we haven't been able to do that in over 3 years because we haven't had time to do it, because obviously the size of our crew and the amount of open ditches that we have, so we're kind of experimenting with this to see how we like it. Rick had brought this up several meetings ago, and we ended up with the money left from.
Well,
Right.
and the COVID
So-
problems put you guys behind where you couldn't
Right.
be here for a while.
Right.
And then you just got really backed up, so I brought it up to Brett to bring it to Chris, because Chris is,
Even without COVID, we're falling too far behind. We need some help, and we
Yes.
probably will use, we'll probably get,
and these
Other
are people,
quotes
these
and
are people
other-
that can shoot the grade.
yeah.
Yes, they're capable of doing the
They're not-
entire
they're
job.
Not just absolute landscaper.
That's
they can-
why we called, yes.
Yeah.
So basically, this is also kind of an experiment. Maybe next year, we'll pick some bigger projects and maybe we'll shift some funds towards that and try this out and see what we think, because it's really helping us, so.
Maybe more efficient.
No more money for you.
Seriously?
Still in discussion?
No.
Any further? Roll call, please.
William,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Motion passes 8:07. Still yours.
You got anything else?
No. I'm good, thanks.
They're still working on Pacific, even though we have the tubes back in for Pacific Avenue. They'll probably finish that up in the next couple weeks. Fergie?
What's that? Sorry, I'm
Never
writing
mind.
notes down here.
It's not important. They're still working on Pacific, but.
Pacific Avenue, the concrete will be poured tomorrow, if everything works out well. Asphalt, I would hope, gets done in the next few days. We'll see what their schedule is, and then there'll be some basic landscaping, stuff like that, so.
And we're hoping that in the near future, Edson Road will be able to get the seal, the A1 cover.
Yes, I will make a call on that tomorrow morning.
That's all I have.
I have a question. Any idea when we're gonna get the bike path paved where Nicor
I
took
would,
it out?
I,
It's been like that for months?
I would hope within the next year or two. I'm joking.
Okay, thanks.
That's Nicor's contract,
I've
right?
called Nicor. I asked them to please expedite that project. It is a very heavily used bike path, walking path. They said no problem. That was 3 months ago.
Considering it
It
was
is-
nice and brand new, and then they
it-
decide to come dig it?
It is not easy to get through to that department, and we get put on a list. I even asked nicely, so.
I wouldn't hold my breath, though.
You're dealing
They
with a
wait until they get a whole
multi-million-dollar
bunch of
company,
years.
so.
Well, it's even bigger than that now.
Just like trying
$1 billion.
to contact the railroad, hey, mow your grass. Ah, they just laugh at you.
Because Nicor's now Southern Company, so it's huge.
Only we had a contact there.
Not with any pull. Our former mayor had a contact, the brother worked there, and he's up in like the director range.
I'll try again and see if I can.
All right, utilities.
I don't have anything unless Brett has something to add.
You just got the Michaels on.
No, I just wanted, there's not a whole lot, Billy did touch on a lot of the water towers, so, we are getting closer. Every day, it's email after email after email. There's a lot of players in this, a lot of contractors, a lot of things going on. Sandy, myself, and actually Mike from, Willett Hoffman, we're working on the little postcard. We're gonna try to send something to every resident, because the system will be, I don't wanna say operating differently, but it will be. There may be some fluctuations in pressure here and there, so we're just gonna try to warn the residents ahead of time that, this may be coming. Our hope is that no interruptions whatsoever, and nobody will even know that this is going on. So, I'll probably update you again next week as we get closer, there'll be more and more kind of popping up here in the next few weeks, so, it'll be a little hectic. Now you can have the mic.
Sure.
I think so.
As long as you have the mic.
Yes, Chris, I'm happy to speak.
Thanks. Is with the water tower being down and out of service,
Yes.
will it be an issue with, where we might need to limit people's usage of water?
No, that's not the
So it
intention.
won't be
I did,
problem at all?
no. So I did speak with the fire chief today. I spoke with him, told him what's gonna be coming. I told him I will give him the actual day that we start the project, the tower is drained. We did speak about, limiting training using water. So, real quick, not to drag this out, the system will be run off pressure. It will be very limited storage. So we'll have about anywhere from 24 to 30,000 gallons of water on hand. And then the wells will cycle as needed to keep that amount of water and keep the system pressurized. So, I talked to him about, obviously structure fires, fire suppression, other communities coming in to pull water off hydrants. We have to be very careful on how we do this. So, I let him know again that any issues in the village or whatever, fires, anything like that that requires water, I have to be called immediately. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because I may have to manually run the system. So, but Todd and I are working on that, so that way it's as painless as possible. So that's an ongoing thing as well. But, no, the whole goal is so there is no interruption in anyone's service, so.
Still yours, Dina. All right.
Oh, sorry, Dina, I'm good.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm.
Economic development? Anyone? Send
What's
an
going on
email.
with the grocery store?
I was saying, I just sent an email back to the, gentleman with the grocery store over the weekend, have not heard back from him. All right. Public? Microphone?
Hold on. Now you.
They cannot hear you on the video recording if you don't have the mic. It's on now.
And this is just an afterthought. Storms yesterday came through, our, tornado warning sirens. They don't have a backup.
They're not even that loud.
They died in the middle, is that what?
Exactly.
Power went out.
Yeah.
They were going off, the power went out, and so did sirens. I just,
They got a backup.
well, then they don't work.
The one on Autumnville stopped. The
They-
one
okay.
Oh, did it? 'Cause I thought I heard
Okay.
it going.
I'm just wanted to bring that up. I didn't know if I was aware of that, but it kinda, if it was a big storm and the electricity was out, it would, yeah. In 17 years, I don't know how long we've had those, but I've never heard it go off
About 10.
before. I mean, I've heard it go off, but not stop in the middle of a power
Not that
fail,
loud anymore either.
so. Oh, believe me, when it's right in front of your house.
Round in a circle,
They're
that's
meant
why.
for people outside, they're not
Okay.
meant for an inside.
And I just want to bring it up, so.
They just had service done like last month.
They did. They were serviced, and actually, dude, Brenda and I were here at Village Hall when that happened, and had to, the basement of Village Hall is next door, so we had to wander outside during that, and we noticed that as well when the power went off, but what I wondered is if the siren flickered because of what was happening in Oregon, which is who sets it off. So, I don't know if there's a way to find out from the siren company.
Ours went off at work.
Right.
Well, they're still echoing too, though, as they're going, and that's why I wondered, but is there a way to find out from our siren company?
Check the log, yeah.
All right, can you ask them to do that?
Glenda.
A few months ago, one of the trustees, William, brought up the fact that a resident had asked him about police present, and the fact that the residents had never been asked. What happened to that discussion? Are you putting out something to the residents or not?
Mike, I had brought up that, again, my tenure on the board, the police conversations probably happened half a dozen times. And I just simply stated that I don't ever recall the village actually ever polling the residents to find out what they want. And what I mean by polling, I mean by a non-binding referendum on an election cycle, where they actually get to go out and vote and say yes, no. And I don't think the board was too inclined to do that, but I don't know.
That's
To
what
answer
I
your
mean.
question,
Where did
it's
that
gone.
go? Where did that go? Did the board drop it or not worry about it, or they don't care?
I don't think, I know, I can't speak for everybody, but I know on, and I haven't made it, a secret that I don't think I'm just not one that thinks that we need a police presence in that respect, to have a full-time police officer in the village. That's just my opinion at the moment. So when we were talking about it being on the referendum as a non-binding, to get the idea of what the village wanted, I think the conversation led to the fact that if we put that on there, then we have to be willing to follow through with it thereafter. If we, like, everybody says they want it, and then we do nothing with it, that's really a pointless thing to do. And I think that's kind of where it kind of stopped, because not everybody was on the same page with pursuing it, is my understanding.
The issue with what you just brought up was, in my opinion, we can't just simply ask that question, because her first thought is a full-time police officer, and I would nowhere support that either. We don't need a full-time police officer,
So
but there are different options.
Exactly.
And I guess the village would have to discuss those options.
To determine what to put on there as the,
Says first.
I thought we were gonna send
You
it
know,
over
what-
to surveyors.
What's the,
But the whole point of the discussion was you were bringing up what a resident wanted, and you represent the residents. So how do you know that over the 2,000 residents, half of them don't support that?
Can I add that? Thank you. So actually, I was asked to do some follow-up on this that I've just not had the opportunity to do so, but Rick had asked me, I believe during the meeting, to follow up on the cost of having one of the survey companies done. Dan did give me the information on 2 or 3 companies just to find out what the cost of that would be versus a referendum. And I just, honestly, it is on my to-do list. I just have not had the opportunity
We
to
did that.
follow up with them.
I'm pretty sure we've done that.
Not with a consultant that would go door to door for us and reach all the.
Going out.
Well, and to responding and checking all the boxes and make sure everybody responds appropriately. We have not done that yet. So I do have that on my to-do list to acquire that information, and once I have that, I will also share that with the board.
If you send consultants out to go door to door, and they were to ask me that question, my first question to them would be, what's it gonna cost me in tax dollars per year to do this? So you actually have a lot of work we have to do as a board before you can just send these consultants out to ask, do you want a police department? And once you put it in, it's for life. It's not gonna go away. Those officers.
Not necessarily.
There are some that have gone away.
They will stick around. You'll be putting IMRF on that, and you're
That's
gonna.
not true either.
Right now, they're getting rid of all kinds of them.
That's not
Police
true
are, their pension is an Illinois Article III pension. It's a downstate pension called Article III.
You will start out at
IMRF.
$250,000 a year, and you will just go up every single year.
I highly doubt that Hillcrest pays $250,000 a year. I highly doubt that Kirkland pays $250,000 a year.
Two
And
different
Kingston.
sized towns.
I know
They're all
Kingston's
different
budget
sizes.
isn't even $250,000 a year.
Because we've looked at it before. I mean, we've looked at these numbers before.
That's because we took the advice of a former police officer who, I'll leave it at that.
I would have.
There are towns smaller than us by more than half that operate in under $100,000.
Well, you said smaller than us, so their cost would be less. That would make sense. My first
You want me to
question is,
prorate it? Then okay, it's
what's
100.
it gonna cost me to have a cop to sit in the parking lot and write a bunch of speeding tickets and chase quads? That would be my question, because we don't have a lot of use. What's the data sheet? What do they come out here for?
Well,
Message?
actually,
You could also issue
Let's table this for
ordinance violations.
next week at the committee of the community police.
And I think the first
You know,
question is, do
where
we feel
have
we need to
more
even do
time
this?
and
I mean,
maybe
that's the
after
first-
Sandy gets some information.
Even if I make those phone calls tomorrow, I don't.
No,
have
no,
that
it
information.
doesn't have to be
No,
the
it's
next
just the point, it'd be
meeting.
nice to have the information
Yes.
before.
Okay. Who am I putting this on under the agenda, Rick?
Me.
All right. Do you want it next week or after I talk to these people? Because, I mean, to some extent, I don't disagree with
Put
John.
it on next week's agenda in
All
case
right.
we do get information, but
Okay.
we can always skip it if we don't get the information by then.
All right.
Okay, my next question is the water tower. It was mentioned on social media, they wanted to know what they were doing, and as all of you know, that I always post the audio of these meetings. So I answered that question and told them that if they'd been listening to the audio tapes and watching them, that they would have the answer, and to please go back to the last few meetings to look up the answer about the water tower.
Thank you, Glenda.
And then my last issue is the way you guys don't talk into your mics. Maybe
No.
because I'm getting old, I am getting hard of hearing, but I can't hear some of you. So please buy some more mics.
Just have them pull them closer.
Yeah, or pull them closer, or talk into them and quit mumbling.
Nancy, do you have something you wanna say? Okay, you just look like you were.
I do not, thank you.
Okay, well, you just kinda look like you may have wanted to, oh my. Thank you, Glenda.
Anything further from public? Anything further from the board members?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Chris makes motion to adjourn, Jared seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
Sorry.
Adjourned at 8:21.